You thought stories were over for this channel? Oh baby, you're in for a treat. Hi everyone, this is Xylee the Fox, and welcome to a brand new video. You all know I am a teacher. Do I like what I do for a living? Well, it is what it is, as they say. But this profession helps me connect with a part of the world I might otherwise ignore had I not see what the cool kids are like, Yo!
Oh, 6, 7, 7.
Jesus Christ, I just can't anymore. The teaching profession requires a lot of dedication, if you know what I mean. But something they don't tell you about it is how difficult it is with today's parents. You see, back in the day, we used to look up to our adults who, would be wise, they would help us, and they'd be our mentors. But what's the issue with that? It's us who are the adults now. And I don't really know how to express this, but it's like the babies of the past are still babies, and these babies had babies. So it's like a never-ending cycle of immaturity converging in schools. That is what I deal with in my job every single day. And that's the root of all the stress most teachers have to face. I've never had issues with parents directly myself, as some colleagues have, but I did have my fair share of indirect issues. And by indirect issues, I mean like, your kid is very unsupervised as to what they are watching, Last year, I worked at 2 different schools at the same time. The first one was like paradise. The kids were very polite and they never had an issue with me being a furry. That's the school where this other video took place, but I'm not gonna talk about it. Oh, but Xylee, do you tell your students you're a furry when you do that? Are you nuts? I'm gay. On a serious note though, I've never told my students I was a furry. They just happened to find me online, and at some point it's kinda impossible to deny that the person speaking on their phones is not the person with the same voice they are having in class every day, but whatevs, I digress. On the other paw, the other one school was like, yikes. If I had to be honest with you, the police had to be parked outside during last period, since when they would go out, there were chances that they would start a fight. The funny part was that the owner of the school believed her institution was prestigious and respected. If she knew, poor little lady. So the story goes like this. I had been working at this place for 2 years now, and by the end of the school year, the weakest pupils have to sit for a test. That morning I was sharing classroom with another colleague, another English teacher who was my friend. The only friend that I ever made in my 6 years of teaching, I must say. So imagine how crazy she must have been for me to like her. So we were testing and talking with this lady until one of the administrators comes into the classroom and says to me, "Good morning, would you care to join me at the head's office?" Ooh. The head office. Nice. Head office meetings were regular, and they generally called all staff members to talk from time to time. It was not very strange, so to say, but there was something in the way she said it. Like, for you watching, I live in a Spanish-speaking country, and linguistically speaking, we can tell when someone has like a back-ended message. She basically said, "Would you like to meet for a little talk?" And the way she used the words was a bit alarming for me. First off, when someone says, "would you like," down here, it's like a red flag. If you're going to give an order, you just say it up front, period. No, "would you like," no. BS. Ouch. Secondly, the word little. Whenever someone says little next to something uncomfortable to soften the message, at least for me, it makes it even stronger. Like, "Hey, there's a little favor I need you to do for me." Like, no little favor. That shit's gonna cost me years of my time. So I made one follow-up question to measure the stakes, and to see if I was not overthinking it after all, because I might be crazy too. But I said, "Should I take my bag with me?" Typically, if it's shorts, they would say, "Nah, you don't need it, it's quick." And she said, yeah, bring them just in case." By hesitating on that question, she snitched herself out. It was going to be long and probably quite stressful. I can't explain how I knew, but I knew. This profession prepares you for these things, unfortunately. At that point, I look at my fellow teacher. She shrugged and said that she would be waiting for me. I mean, I go out of the classroom and upon climbing down the stairs, it dawns on me that something wrong was gonna happen. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I tend to have that sixth sense that usually tells me, Xylee, something bad is gonna happen, so be prepared.
I see dead people.
At that point, I turned away opposite and just went to the toilet. I washed my face and I made sure that what they were going to tell me could be kept, if you know what I mean. I walked right into the office where the meeting was supposed to happen, and to no one's surprise, in the room there were the head, the deputy, and the freaking owner of the goddamn school. Wow, I am so impressed with my skills to be prepared for I am asked to be seated, and they start talking about how I was feeling and that there was a situation with something they saw online. That one line is my favorite one so far, like, something we saw online. Huh, interesting. Tell me more, I said, with my most stoic face ever, and after a few, you should think about your life choices and what could the parents say, I just stopped them right away and said, thank you, I had enough. At this point, these people were contradicting each other, just for you to know. First, they said that I could have problems at work for showing my face online next to that strange costume, but was like, excuse me? My face? Like this little silly cover? No. My real awful face, repeated the cranky old bastards, but my fursuit head was the only thing I show online, and I don't know, I don't think I'll ever make a face reveal, but however, they kept on saying I was showing my face next to my fursuit, but they just couldn't prove it.
I am not crazy! I just couldn't prove it.
So yeah, apparently there was this TikTok going around with me fursuiting around. I don't know what they were talking about because they didn't want to show it to me. They said that I should be more aware of what I post online. Like, meh, I never share my socials with the kids here in the school, so I don't know what could have happened. Anyways, the second thing that they talked about was that the head of the school was trying to imply that I should keep my social profiles private or shut them down because a teacher should give a quote-unquote professional look, to which I said no, not even kidding. My socials, my YouTube channel, my Instagram? You want me to give up my piece of internet clout for a job that doesn't even pay the bills? Alright, that was a bit too much. Sorry, neighbors. These people clearly didn't know what they were doing, clearly. This conversation lasted for 57 minutes and 43 seconds. Huh, precise number, right? Just as if there was some sort of tape of the conversation that could later be used in court against them, right? Ha! The thing is that these people kept on saying that I should delete my platforms or more people could find out, but something they couldn't answer was how the school found out in the first place. They hadn't been able to explain how, but the thing is that because they didn't like the whole furry thing because it was too queer for them, they gave me 3 days to resign. Which of course I didn't. They eventually fired me, but oh lord, the good they did. Not only will I take actions on this, but also they freed me from a job I otherwise would have never left. And to be honest, it was destroying me mentally. I mean, that school was in serious shit, mate. At the end of the day, I was able to find a better job and even within walking distances, so I can even take my walkies on my way to work, am I right? This story though went down unheard because I never talked about it out of fear. So the school I used to work for was very manipulative, they mistreated the teachers, and more than once they forced members of the staff to resign as they tried to do with me. The teacher land was just a meeting of people who would always complain about the same BS, and I am honestly glad I am out now. I'm probably with some pocket money to spend in the future, you know? Wink, wink. But anyways, I don't believe schools should be this discriminatory, especially with nowadays diversity. That's one of the problems I talked about my country in this little documentary I organized with some other Latino furries, which if you haven't watched yet, you should definitely go and try it. But anyway, schools in my country are run by very conservative areas of society, and that situation is far from changing in the foreseeable future. It really makes me sad that the minds of tomorrow are subject to the minds of the past, you know, a generation who failed to prepare a world for the current generation, and all they did was destroy us both mentally and emotionally, but it is what it is. If you guys enjoy this unsketched story from the time I was fired for being a furry, you know, hit the like button. And if you have a friend who is a furry, hit the like button too. Comment what your thought was about the story, and if you can, share this video with a friend. I am sure this is a worth watching video during tea time, but other than that, I hope to see you all in my next video. Take good care of yourselves, everyone. Meow!
Hi.